Hi, I'm Camilla Ammirati. I'm the Director of Research and Programs at TAUNY, Traditional Arts in Upstate New York in Canton, New York. And along with Ruth McWilliams, I'm the co-curator of the exhibit at the TAUNY Center right now, St. Lawrence County Barn Quilts. As you see, we are not at the TAUNY Center right now. We're at a special location on a visit to the St. Lawrence County Cornell Cooperative Extension to check in with the Living Barn Quilt project with Anneke Larrance. We've been taking you on a series of little video visits to highlight different elements of the exhibit. And this project here is something that got started in connection with the exhibit. We had an 8x8 barn quilt in the exhibit made by Carol Budd, who's one of the master gardeners here at Cornell Cooperative Extension. It's an incredible piece, and it's part of an ongoing project working towards having 3 8x8 barn quilts on the barn here at Cornell Cooperative Extension. Meanwhile, we got to thinking how exciting it might be if somebody might like to try to make a living barn quilt, a garden in the pattern and shape of a barn quilt. And as I was thinking about that and getting very excited about the possibility, I put out the challenge to gardeners around the area, and I was so thrilled to hear back that Anneke Larrance was thinking that she might take up that challenge. And in fact, here we are with the beautiful living barn quilt that she and others working with her have made. So if you'd like to tell us a little more about it, I'd like to ask you to introduce yourself and tell us how you got inspired to do this project and why you were excited to do it.
Okay, I'm Anneke Larrance, and I'm a Master Gardener volunteer here at Cornell Cooperative Extension. I'm retired, so I have a certain amount of time on my hands, and when the challenge came, actually I didn't need to be retired to have the challenge come and accept it. I just loved it. I like to be creative, and the idea of putting together something that's one of my passions, which is gardening, with one of my other passions, which is appreciation of art, and being able to share it with everybody that was sort of the coolest thing there was.
That's so great. Would you tell us a little about the process of how you designed it and got it going?
Oh gosh, well, you know, once you have this idea in your head, and I did have it from the minute I said yes, I imagined it right in my head. And it was fully finished and all that sort of stuff, and you know, there were many steps along the way, but in my head that's the way it was. Then I had to stop and think about it. So my husband did the design for the actual frame, because you got to hold the dirt in place, especially if it's on the side of a hill. And you can't see a living quilt very well unless it's on a slope of some kind. So we did that. We had to think about the kind of plants we wanted to order. We had to get the plants ordered back in February so that somebody could start them, and so they'd be ready to do. We had to think about the size of them. We had to think about the colors. And then you have to get a crew to put it all together. So yeah, it is quite a process.
Mm-hmm. And what would you say, if it's possible to decide in that whole process, what was most challenging about it?
You know, the actual most challenging part of it was planting it. On the side of the hill, we had to think, you can't just, you may not be able to tell in this video how steep this is, but this really is a steep hill. And none of us were able to sort of climb up in the top and start and work our way down, because there's pattern boards all the way through it and so on. So my husband designed something so we could plant a quarter of it all the way down as we went. So we planted the top quarter, then the middle, then the bottom 3/4, and then the very bottom. So that was the biggest challenge, was figuring out how we were actually going to plant it.
Right, and that was with some kind of board across it to stand on
Yes,
or kneel on?
yes. Well, there was a board, and it went across, and you could lean on it and put your toes. There was a toe guard on it, so you could put your toes so you wouldn't slide down the hill while you were kneeling there, planting the things in front of you.
Mm-hmm. And then you said another thing that's been interesting about the process is, do you feel like there's ever a moment where you can say, we've done it, here it is?
Oh, no. Maybe that's the biggest challenge. It's never done. Yeah, there's always something, it seems like there's always something else that can be done. And it's never quite the way you want it to be. And then when it gets to be the way that you thought you wanted it to be, oh, maybe I wanted it someplace else. So, yeah, that's another big challenge, absolutely.
Well, it's certainly come together so beautifully. And if you could decide, what do you think is most exciting or most inspiring or most surprising about what's come out of it?
Well, it was a cooperation between, there are 4 other master gardeners who are actually helping me on this. So it was a nice way for a bunch of people to cooperate. I like the idea that it's public art because it's situated in such a way that people coming on this road, 68, I believe it is, yeah, coming on 68, are able to see it from the road. So that was a surprising, nice thing that happened to it, to think about public art, and it's always there for people to see.
Mm-hmm. Well, that is wonderful, and it is such a lovely thing to get to see as we drive through. I come past here regularly, and it's always such a wonderful, bright spot to see it and see how it's changing over time. And I'm so excited that this was able to come together. And do you think that you might do something like this again in the future?
Oh gosh, we got to get through this year first. No, I'm not quite sure what's going to happen here. Yeah, time will tell.
Fair enough. Well, I'm so glad, again, that it's come together this year. Thank you so much for taking on this challenge and for sharing it with us and for joining us here today to talk about it.
Happy to do it.
Yes, and thank you all for joining us today.